Help him.
I'm still going to call you with questions. Open a thumbs up.
He brought his chat GPT. Do you have AI on there?
Not yet.
No? Yeah, me either.
Matt, you can give me the thumbs up if we're recording. Hello, Matt. Oh. Okay. David, are you back there? Can you hit the record button, please? Okay, thank you. All right. Mr. Chairman, we are here for the Marine Advisory Committee meeting at 3363 West Park Place. It is 5:32 p.m. on May the 12th, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Turpin. Let me start by saying thank you, everybody, for being here today. And we are governed by the Roberts Rule of Order. Please wait to be recognized by the chair before you speak. When you do speak, we ask that you sign in. Is it in the back or in the front today?
We should have one on the front. There's a speaker sign in on the front, so we make sure that we comply with Florida statutes. There's a voluntary sign-in sheet at the back.
Okay.
So for visitors, voluntary sign-in. For speakers, it's mandatory that we get their name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. This meeting is being recorded. We do want to take your name and address for the record. We do have a 3-minute time limit on discussion. Your piece there, please. I'm going to start out by calling the roll, if we would. Mr. Keith Johnson, doesn't appear as he's here. You heard from him, sir?
No, sir, I have not.
Thank you. Mr. Robert Sims? Here. Mr. Glenn Conrad? Here. Thank you. Mr. Clint Rutherford? Here. Mr. Joe Denman? Here. Mr. Scott Roberts? Here. Mr. Mark Moore? Here. Mr. Pete Gaddy? Any word on him?
No. Yes, I did actually hear from Mr. Gaddy.
He's excused, yeah. We have Mr. Don Lorch. Carrie Freeland, that is me, and the chair, Michael Lewis, Dr. Michael Lewis. Here. Thank you. Eileen Beard. Here. Captain Mark Moore. Did I kid you already? Yeah. Okay, sorry. All right, so we have a quorum. Real quick, we want to move to the approval of the meetings for the minutes for the April meeting.
Mr. Chair, if I may, if it would please the committee, we could take the presentations by the kids, move right into the Boating Safety Symposium, and then handle the minutes with the rest of your regular scheduled business at the end of the Boating Safety Symposium.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
On to item 6.
Yes, and if I may introduce our speakers tonight for the high schools and for all of our guests, welcome. We do have a water fountain right outside the door here to the right, and that's also the location of our restrooms. If you do need to take a phone call, if you would, please step outside the doors and handle that in any conversations, because these mics are very sensitive and they do pick up on conversations. So for our first item on tonight's agenda, we're going to have presentations from the students of 2 local high schools. And these high schools were participating in a pilot program that Escambia County Marine Resources Division and the Coastal Conservation Association and Florida Sea Grant combined our resources and are developing a science curriculum that is centered on artificial reefs. So these are students that have learned about artificial reefs, and they have designed artificial reefs. And I'm very happy to say that this week we will get a check from the Coastal Conservation Association Florida chapter for $50,000 that will allow these reefs to be deployed. So I will ask, the first teacher is Jason Mellis. Jason, can you come up and introduce your folks?
Hey there, everybody. I'm Jason Mellows. I'm
Jason. Could you go to the podium there?
So face these guys? Or-
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm Jason Mellows. I teach at Washington High School Marine Science Academy. I've got Donovan Alexander and Garrett Hoffman here. They're two of my students that really help with the presentation. But all of our students through this program, this artificial reef program, have been able to learn about artificial reefs, visit Artificial Reef Maker, and we're part of the design process. But they're just going to tell us about this tonight. And before they get started, I just want to say thank you again, Robert, for bringing us in on this and giving us this opportunity. So they're going to tell you about the reef and what it's going to do out there, and here they are.
Okay, we have your slides are up on the slide, the screen up here, and each of the Marine Advisory Committees has it in front of them. So just let me know if you want me to go from slide to slide.
Yes, sir. Yes, thank you once again, Mr. Turbin, for giving us this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to better our environment. Like Mr. Mello said, my name's Garrett. He's Donovan. We're two members of a relatively small MSA class this year at Washington, but we have really big dreams, and we've been pushing all year to make this project happen. So I'll let Donovan start by introducing the benefits of the reef.
All right, artificial reefs have a lot of benefits toward the community and the people. So, adding the reef to like a coastal or just flat environment, you increase biodiversity, increase habitat structure that allows the fish populations to increase and restock. So you can increase tourism, fishing, and new recreational activities like diving. And it also helps with coastal erosion with all those waves hitting it. It slows that wave down so you're not losing as much sand from that coastal erosion. And that's the benefit. Want to do the next one?
Yes. So we have, in the big group of our reef, we have three individual ones. Our super reef, our gripper reef with the amberjack pole, and the memorial reef. Our super reef is the largest one, around 15 feet. Provides a habitat for larger marine species, and it creates a shelter for all sorts of fish, both large and small.
Then we'll get into the grouper reef with an amberjack pole. This supports a variety of different species as it has 3 different parts to it. On the photo, we have just 2 of the parts. We couldn't find one with the amberjack pole, but you have this central cavity, like the den on the bottom part, and that helps like for grouper and benthic fishes and species that like to live and burrow in. So that supports that group. Then for like the smaller, more tinier fish, you have the series of shelves, and that's limestone rock on it too, which is really common for like, and it helps improve for what is it called? Like a natural reef, coastal reefs, or coral reefs. Sorry, there we go. And then amberjack poles will be on like the corners or the front of the reef, in which it's actually kind of crazy how that works, because amberjacks literally, they just like to circle around the pole. And so do a lot of other species like who school, and it's just good for the other larger fish.
And then finally, we have our memorial reef. This one's just more of decoration, just to show divers that we were there, we built this. Provides our class with the opportunity to leave a lasting legacy. It's an 8-foot tall tetrahedron that provides a habitat for a range of species, and we plan for a lot of divers to be there. They oftentimes do around that area, and just gives them something else to look for.
All of those reefs will be added to already a collection of where the county has about 60 feet off of, I think it's the Grand Marlin, or not 60 feet, but somewhere down to the depths of 60 feet, where there's tons of already artificial reefs put there by the majority of sponsors and organizations. So we will be adding to the complexity of that. But for the impact for us that it had on Booker T. Washington Marine Science Academy, it was a great opportunity for us to learn about the local reef program down in Orange Beach, Alabama. I think it was Walter Marine Artificial Reefs. We went down there and went to tour and see how they made the reefs and got to look at it up close and how they deploy them. It also allowed us to take the skills we learned from class of going through the curriculum to then put it in real life, in a real life hands project where we were there and we were seeing how everything worked and how they do their job. And then it gave us another opportunity to collaborate and help support our community, as that's what Booker T. Washington Marine Science Academy likes to do. We like to go and collaborate and help our community, whether that's taking trash out or anything. We like to come back to the community. And that'll be it. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, if you would, please, the committee may have some questions for y'all.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman? Yes, sir. So, a very good presentation. I look forward to seeing some of those as a diver. The question I would ask is, are you gentlemen getting certified to dive so you can go look at your reefs?
I think that we would both love to. We've been talking about it in the class all year, trying to see if Mr. Mellows could take us out to do that, but there's some school issues on that. But it's a dream of mine, a goal of mine. I would love to be able to dive one day.
Well, there's enough folks up here that can give you some advice and some tips. So, thank you very much for what you're doing. I look forward to seeing them when I'm out there. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck to you. Good luck, young man.
Great.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I would,
Yes, sir.
I would, excuse me, I would pledge to sponsor your dive class. Through dive class, I'd give you the full amount to cover our classes out there, and I'll waive my fees, so
That's
just throw it out
Very
there to
nice.
y'all.
That'd be amazing.
Wish I learned this before I got my open water.
You guys have obviously done a good job. So, thank you, Robert.
You're welcome.
So how deep did you say these were gonna go?
It's going to be around 60 feet depth, which allows for the open water
Nice.
scuba
Perfect.
certification.
And the amberjack poles, how tall are they from the bottom? How high up do they go?
They go like right onto the end corner of that structure, so it's not going off to just the floor. But I think that's around maybe 6-8 feet. I'm not too sure.
Pretty cool.
Mr. Chairman, I do have an update on that. I spoke to the contractor. We've actually issued the purchase order, and the contractor is building the reefs as we speak. And what they're going to do is they're going to use the existing component that holds the eco discs together. That's a 10-inch fiberglass Pearson piling, and that will be extended up about, like you said, 6 feet. So it'll be more in the center of the reef, and that will facilitate, I think, a lot of the circling behavior that the students referred to earlier. So that was a little bit of a change, but he felt like it would be a stronger installation by doing it that way.
Yeah, they hold up pretty well. So, were the designs, did you all come up with some of the design of the reef?
So like I said, we went to Walter Marine down in Orange Beach, Alabama, in which they already had presets designs. But with the opportunity of a memorial reef, we get to add to the tetrahedron, like our plaque, our name, our photos, any symbols we want to symbolize to show is from Marine Science Academy. But they offered quite a few, like they offered the super reef, the normal limestone reef pyramid, the grouper reef, those shelves you saw, and I think a few more. They also do memorial reefs, that too. So we basically just but looked at theirs and didn't create any new structures.
Gotcha. Got a nice little assortment, though.
Yeah.
Anybody in the committee have anything else? Yes, sir, Mr. Conrad.
So in your research, okay. So in your research, how long does it take for fish to start populating around these once they're deployed?
We haven't done any research yet, as it's not deployed from
Okay.
us and monitored.
Fair enough. Fair
Stumped
enough.
us on that one.
Get back with us next year.
Yeah,
We
you
will.
have to come back then and give a report.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I do have some other exciting news to let y'all know that we have designed in our standard reefs that we have ordered. We're ordering these with a preset set of holes pre-drilled, and we can mount a set of cameras. So to answer the question, we hope to answer it on this, because right before they're deployed, we'll turn on our underwater cameras and let them film their deployment down to the seafloor, and hopefully we will see our first fish show up before the batteries go dead. So we'll either know how long the batteries last or when the first fish shows up. But that's a very good question, and one of common interest to us as we build these reefs. So thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody in the audience like to ask any of these fine young gentlemen a question about their reefs? No? Thank you, guys. You did a great job.
Thank you, committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Okay, we'll ask teacher Matt Mello, Matt McGregor to come up and introduce his students.
Hey, guys, there's a whole row of chairs right there, so you can see the board.
Thank you, Robert. And it's good to see you guys. And Mike Lewis, I haven't seen you in a minute. It's good to see you. But yeah, I brought 3 of my students with me. I've got Colin Timon, I've got Mason Roden, and I've got Bria Nelson, and they're all 3 in my Marine Honors class. And they, we have probably be about 40 students in those classes, and these 3 have come tonight. And they played quite a good role in helping to pick out and design the reefs for this. And I'm really glad they chose the 60-foot water reefs. More bottom time, so it's good for me, so I'm happy. But I'm going to go ahead and, which one do you guys want to stop first? Okay.
Hello, I wanted to first talk about, on the first slide, some of the things that we first learned as a context building up to this. Of course, with a big thank you to Mr. McGregor and Mr. Turpin, who taught us a lot of this, because I personally did not know a lot about artificial reefs when I first started this. I was very surprised to see just how many different purposes there are to these. They're not just for maybe getting fish populations to be reintroduced or just for conservation. They're also for the tourism business. They're for the fishing business. There's different ways that you can design an artificial reef to support different sectors. Some of the sectors even overlap. So what might be interesting to some for scuba diving also just as much equally supports local scuba dive shops. And even you can have as a burial site as well. There's a lot of different purposes to these. We also talked about the different kinds of materials you can make artificial reefs out of. We talked about ceramics and stoneworks, and even I thought it was very interesting how we talked about the USS Oriskany being sunk in 2006 as one of the largest artificial reef at the time in the world to Pensacola. And just the fact that you could turn an entire ship just into an artificial reef like that as soon as you take all the hazardous materials off of it. And I also learned, I was somewhat shocked that we have over 150 artificial reefs already in place in our local waters. There's an interactive map on Escambia County's website showing all the coordinates for divers and fishermen to go and see those. And it was very impressive to see what we already have foundationally set in the works. And now I'll leave it to Mason to talk about some of the design considerations.
All right, I'm Mason. There's many things to go into the design of the reefs, such as how visible are they going to be in the water, what animals they support, how easy they are to access for divers and fishermen. The habitat, what's in the surrounding area is going to be reefs. It's going to be an open area of sandy bottom, hard bottom. Got to also think about currents that are going through the area, how deep it is for the waves, and how much the waves are going to affect the reefs for erosion purposes, and see how long they will last. Temperature also will affect the fish that move in, seasonal fish like Spanish mackerel come in during warmer seasons, so would those be able to support in that reef? And that's really about it.
So our reefs, or at least some of them, were specifically designed to support grouper as well as snapper, and some of the benefits of that for groupers is the wider space. Since it's not so much as a school fish or a small nibbling fish, it gives them a lot more space to move around and take it as sort of an inviting home. It also protects their young as they're growing up from some of the predators such as sharks and barracuda, as well as king mackerel. So it really lets them get the chance to actually grow up and become an adult grouper before they are getting attacked. We also talked about the considerations of having shade. They like to be in those shadier spots. It gives them the chance to be out of the sun and protected from some of rough sea waters and the turbulent seas. And it gives them a chance to collect and start going after smaller prey fish as well. A lot of the smaller fish might also enjoy the shade or go for algae that's growing on the artificial reef. So it gives them this nice spot to sort of dart in and out and catch smaller prey fish and attract a lot of grouper into the area.
So when considering all that we have learned and all that we got information from Mr. Turpin, we started this process around October, where Mr. Turpin came to our classrooms and gave us lectures on what artificial reefs were and how they personally designed them. And from those, we held a interactive activity where we used cinder blocks and bricks and started thinking of different ways that artificial reefs can be designed using these objects and taking into consideration what we wanted our artificial reef to focus on, whether that was tourism or conservation or other aspects. And then in February, we actually went and toured Walter Marine, where we were able to see different reefs and able to see the ship that they went and deployed on them, to understand the different factors that all are brought together to create these artificial reefs and help us expand our ideas into actual things that can be created. And so here you see a group of us from West Florida High School in the Marine Science program that is touring, and also Mr. Turpin speaking to us, and also in our own personal classroom where we created the interactive activity. And then on this next slide, we see the artificial reefs that have already been built and that were examples for us once we toured Walter Marine. So we see the grouper reef, also known as the grouper condo with Mr. Turpin himself. And then we also see on the other two ecosystem disc artificial reefs, where they're more based for invertebrates to live on and for sunlight detection more so. And so from these, we created West Florida's proposal, where we got different groups of students to create their own proposal, and then so that each person could feel like they were involved. And then Mr. Turpin decided himself which one of those proposals would be most logical, considering materials and other aspects. And so from this, our proposal was 6 limestone reefs that weigh each about 600 pounds, and the limestone itself helps match the pH of the seawater, and also along with attracting marine life. And then 2 grouper reefs that help attract young and mature grouper along with other fish species, and hold the ecosystem disc and also have a greater surface area for fish to be attracted to. And in total, this price was around $21,760, which matches our budget and gives us room for deployment and other aspects that may end up increasing the cost. And then here's a diagram of our overall idea for for the artificial reefs once deployed. But yes, that is our proposal and our presentation. Thank you so much, and thank you, Mr. Turpin, for the opportunity to be a part of this pilot program. Thank you for listening.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, thank you guys. You did a fine job. I like the layout of the reefs. It's really cool. Any of the committee members have any questions for our presenters?
I do.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Scott. Let me turn this on. Hello, I'm Scott Roberts. I have a question. Is it 600 pounds or 6,000 pounds?
Oh my gosh, 6,000 pounds. Sorry.
I was wondering how y'all gonna move those things, and also how are they anchored?
Anchored? You take this.
So they're carried on a ship that has a crane, and then has a spot lock on it where it sits over there where it's going to be dropped, and it's lowered down into the water, and the weight and the sand loosens and it buries itself into the sand, then it helps hold it in place. And the only thing that's really going to move is erosion.
Okay. So I asked that question when we were talking about the reefs, the big ships, and how the Oriskany moved. And I, in disbelief, said, really, that ship moved. But under the weight of the storm and the water down there, those things can shift. I was just wondering if you have any data on that, or you realistically, you're going to go back one day and your reef's going to be gone, or 200 feet that way?
I mean, when storms and currents and waves hit it, the sand becomes a liquid and it slides around. So there's not really too much you can do about holding it down in place.
So we're praying and hoping on gravity.
Yes, sir.
Good
Yeah,
job.
let's
All right, hey, it's an answer. Thanks.
You guys planning on any additional research to do with your reefs?
I plan on fishing them to see if fish come to them.
There you go. That's surveying.
Part of the survey, yeah. Anybody else? Anybody from the audience like to ask these folks anything? Thank you guys very much. Thank you, Matt.
That was great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing us to shift the agenda around a little bit to accommodate these presentations.
That's awesome. Very well. So did we want to move into the Boater Safety Symposium next versus our exciting minutes? We did have some exciting minutes from the last meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. If we could get our expert panel to take your seats at the expert panel table, and we'll go ahead, and as they're taking their seats, I just put together a brief outline of some of the topics, very similar to what I put together for our diving safety symposium. So what I thought I would do is we would just go right down the table and ask our experts to introduce themselves and tell us your role in your organization and what that organization's relationship to boating safety, and also some ideas and thoughts, maybe concerns that y'all have about boating safety. So, Mr. Brown, if we could start with you.
Sergeant David Brown with the Escambia County Sheriff's Office. I'm also assigned to the Marine unit. We are a part-time unit. Most of our patrols occur during the summer months, so the peak season, with the exception of the few times that we go out during the winter time if we're called upon for whatever the call might be. We assist the dive team. We're mostly a support unit for Coast Guard and FWC in this region. Again, just because we are a part-time unit at this time.
Hi, I'm Abby Moreno. I work at Sector Mobile. I'm in the incident management division actually, so I'm a pollution responder, but I also am the recreational boating safety coordinator for the sector. So I coordinate with all of our small boat stations, which we have 6 between Gulfport and Panama City. And then I also work in the command center, which is like the Coast Guard's version of 911 dispatch. And up there, we deal with a lot of, false alerts in terms of DSCs and EPIRBs. So that would be like one of the big areas that I would like to see improved, because we exhaust a lot of resources, tracking down a lot of false alerts because mariners don't know how to use the equipment that they have on board.
Hello, I'm Ken Phillips. I'm Flotilla Commander for Flotilla 17 in Pensacola. The main thing that Coast Guard Auxiliary does is we promote boating safety. 2 of the main things that you're aware of would be the safe boating classes and then the vessel examinations. And one of the, if I could get anything to the public to understand about the vessel exams, is we are not law enforcement. We are eyes and ears for what we call the gold side. And we're just there to help the public by promoting the safe boating class. And with the vessel exams, we don't pick up the phone and say, this guy doesn't have a fire extinguisher. We would say to you, here's the list of the things you need, and then that becomes your responsibility. And if you have everything you need, then you get the safe boating sticker, the vessel exam sticker, which is good for a year, and then you call us, and it's free. And that's our big thing is boating safety.
Britton Corbin, lieutenant over in Escambia County now with Fish and Wildlife. I mean, a big part of our job is boating safety, resource, and then resource both on land and on the water. So we work in conjunction with Coast Guard and Marine units sometimes. So we're kind of just our response time on the water is we're probably the first ones to respond for the most part. So outside that, Coast Guard, fire departments, things like that we assist with when we get called for. So.
Hello, I'm Arthur Leary. I am with the Pensacola Flotilla. Ken is, and just to add on what he said, he was mentioning about the decal you get for the safety check. Here's one of them right here. And I deal with that out at, I'm out at Pensacola Beach and Gulf Breeze. Speak to the places out there. Like Monday, I spoke to the Mar Beach Yacht Club on this very subject. But my main thing that I deal with the auxiliaries, I'm the finance officer for Pensacola Flotilla and the entire 8th District Coastal Region. So yeah, I get to be the custodian of all the funds, but any chance I get, I like being out on the water. We do the part of the safety patrols for the, we got the Blue Angels coming up and the headquarters of all that command centers at the Santa Rosa Island Authority, and I get to be the liaison officer for the island authority to the external agencies during that. It's if anything, what I would like to see more of is just more boater education, more people, because there's more people using the waterways, more people purchasing vessels, but just because they got the money to be able to buy it doesn't mean that they know what they're doing out there. And so that's part of our reason we're trying to educate the public, the boating public, so they'll know what to do out there. And that's, if anything, we need more of that. So if anyone would like to join the auxiliary, hey, come see us. We'll take all that we can get, and that's the biggest need we have is just promoting more of that safety to people out in the public have awareness of it. Thank you.
Thank you. And we also have on our Marine Advisory Committee, we also have, Glenn, if you want to introduce yourself and your role in the auxiliary.
Sure. Actually, I threw together a little couple of slides of a briefing that goes over that. My name is Glenn Conrad. I'm in the Coast Guard Auxiliary, have been for a few years now, as well as Ms. Lynn Mott, who's sitting in the back here, who did a vessel inspection here on one of the county boats. Did you pass them? They passed? Okay. That's a good thing. So we're both in the Orange Beach Flotilla 310. The Coast Guard Auxiliary's got some 23, I think, thousand. The auxiliary has about 23,000 volunteers. It's a volunteer organization. As Ken mentioned here, we're not law enforcement, but Abby is, because she's active duty. So that's the difference between us, for one thing. But we concentrate on a lot of prevention and preparation and recreational boating safety. We teach boating safety classes. Here, wait a minute, I can't do this from back here.
He's coming around.
Okay, I'm changing roles now. We teach boating safety classes. We teach out of this. There's also other classes that can do this. The Power Squadron or America's Boating Club, you can do this online. The FWC has some links on their site to teach basically this thing. It's a national class. These days now, by the way, if you were born after January the 1st, 1988 in Florida, you're supposed to have a boating class certificate. And you can get the ID, the little anchor designation on your driver's license. Alabama, since we're so close to the border, is a little bit more stringent, I think, because they've had some more problems. But they pretty much demand everybody to have that now. Not that they will always write you a ticket.
It's being recorded, so it helps.
Oh, okay, fine. Well, that's too loud for me. But basically, we do teach these classes. We go over how to use fire extinguishers, how to use pyrotechnic flares, although it's nicer, in my humble opinion, to not use a pyrotechnic flare, to use one that'll last for 48 hours if you're out there at night and you need to issue a distress signal. Visual distress signals, we go over a lot of those kinds of things when we do the classes.
We're doing our introductions now. We were going to go through the regular stuff after we did the introductions.
Okay, well, I can run through this. Just briefly, though, we really appreciate Sector Mobile for coming over here and being surprised at what you have to do, answer questions. And in the back, we do have a whole lot of literature and information. And I guess as we go through some of these, we'll talk about MMSI and how to make an emergency call and how to do some other things like that that you might want to be aware of. Okay, great.
Yeah, if you can just give that to you. And we also have Mr. Clint Rutherford from ESAR. Go ahead, Clint.
Good evening. My name is Clint Rutherford. I'm with the Escambia Search and Rescue. I'm the director of our team. Served many years on the dive team and served several years as the boat commander. We are a supporting agency to every agency you see here: the Sheriff's Department, the Coast Guard, FWC, and all the multiple fire rescue teams that are out there who have boating commands as well. We have about 7 vessels in the Escambia County area. We have one over at the Coast Guard Station, Pensacola. We keep one over at Bayou Grande for some deep offshore stuff, and 4 or 5 vessels over at our building on Nims Lane. So we're really big in trying to be proactive about boater safety. Life jackets, we're going to hammer those home every time we get an opportunity. I've said it, and I'll always say it, of all the recoveries I've had to make over the years, not a single one of them was ever wearing a life jacket. Good many of folks end up in the water after a boating accident, and if you don't have that life jacket on, you don't stand much of a chance. So all the supporting documents, all the stuff that the other teams are doing, we love that stuff. We use a lot of it as well, but we're always going to hit hard on our meet and greets to push life jacket safety. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Look forward to sharing some more in the symposium.
Thank you. And just to give us an outline of some of the topics that we're going to be discussing tonight, we just had a diving safety symposium just last month, and we really focused on prevention and preparation, and then also response. But we feel that if our boaters can do a really good job of an attitude and actions to prevent and prepare for an issue, then the response is perhaps never needs to occur. And if it does need to occur, we'll learn from our expert panel over here is how best their agencies are able to respond. But it starts with attitude. And to me, the real measure of someone's attitude towards boating safety is, do they have an emergency action plan? And that's really important, and it shows to me that somebody's really serious about boating safety. But there's also aspects of the vessels, the equipment. Do they do their safety checks before they go on a voyage? Do they check their emergency equipment? Do they check the weather and marine forecast? Do they have the radar apps and use these? Do they have a float plan? Do they follow the rules of the road and know where the inland rules end and begin and the international rules? And also Chapter 327 of Florida statutes. Lieutenant Corbin's here to maybe to answer some of those questions. And then from a best practices, just good boating habits. And then from the response, again, that emergency action plan is really important. Communications, you talked about it just now, is what do PON, what do Securite, and what do Mayday mean, and when should you use those? And there's others, as Mr. Conrad spoke to, some of our new 21st century options, such as an automatic flashing light that flashes the SOS. But there's other EPIRBs and personal locator beacons. And then what are the legal reporting requirements if you have an accident? When are you obligated and required under state or federal law to report that accident? And then there's other questions, concerns, and discussion items. And very similar to our recent diving safety symposium, We hope that our audience and our panel and our Marine Advisory Committee take each of these items and maybe items that they have and expound upon those. So, Mr. Conrad, since you had something already, I'll go ahead and go to your slide presentation, and you can go ahead and get started. Are your screens not up over there? Can y'all see your screens, Marine Advisory Committee? Okay.
Need to update Teams.
There we go. You can go, yeah, please. So I mentioned some of this a moment ago. We really focus on prevention and preparation than anything as the auxiliary, and I believe it was already mentioned by Commander Phillips that the auxiliary, we're not law enforcement. I mean, when you see us at the boat ramps, you know, we don't write tickets. If your vessel doesn't pass an inspection, we tell you what you need. That's it. We'll come back out to you and do the inspection again, free. We'll come to you. So we don't pull over boats. We don't do tickets. We don't do anything like that. Our focus is recreational boating safety. We do assist the active duty with training, especially some of the rescue swimmers. We like them. They're fun to deal with. We can do things like measuring ATONs, aids to navigation, otherwise known as buoys, to see if they're functional. If they're not functional, we can report them and help do update the charts. We support land-based, on the water, and airborne. We have an airborne mission. So, as was mentioned, if anyone's interested in joining the auxiliary, we like you. We'll come on in. Okay, yes, Robert, if you go ahead. And there's some really good information at that website if you'd like to follow up on that. So a couple of things. I pulled a few tidbits out of our training class, our very basic boating safety class. So in Florida, how old do you have to be to operate a PWC? 14. In Alabama, 14. Supervised, you can operate a little bit less. This is straight out of the NASBLA, which stands for National Association for Safe Boating or something like that. Also, if you look on the back table back there, this is a very good thing to have in your boat. This pretty much has everything that course has in it, and it's a wonderful reference. So I mentioned the boating safety course earlier. If your boat now, especially most center consoles, has a lanyard cutoff switch, you know, where you pull the thing out and the engine quits, you need to be wearing it. It needs to be attached to you. Fire extinguishers now, recently, well, as of about a year ago, they have to be less than 12 years old, or they're no good. They're considered no good. They might still work, but they may not. The vessel length basically determines most of your safety equipment needs. So, yeah, Robert, if you can move on. So, a couple other little tidbits here. Approaching a naval vessel, I'd like you to stay 500 yards away. Don't come within 100 yards. Boating while intoxicated is the same as driving, 0.08. Okay? And these guys are going to correct me too, so this was a test for me today. All right? So they'll jump in here and do the hook on me if I screw this up. But alcohol in boating accidents or boating fatalities is involved about a third of the time. A lot of times, most accidents are human error. It's not mechanical. There's some weather issues, but mostly it's human error. Situation awareness, knowing where other boats are around you. And one of the things we teach in the classes are how to determine if you're on a collision course. You know, that's an interesting little tidbit to know. Anybody want to tell me? Yeah, he does. Constant bearing and decreasing range, yes. If you're looking off of your boat and you see something coming at you from that angle and that angle doesn't change and you're getting closer, you're going to hit. So you got choices to do. You can slow down, you can speed up, you can change your direction. That's about it.
So that's knowing and also knowing the stand on and give way rules, basic navigation rules. Interestingly enough, recently harassing a manatee in Florida, the fine for that is $100,000 maximum. Came off of your website. So destroying seagrass, if you put prop scars in there and you're doing that, that can be $1,000 per shot. PFDs, life jackets. That's the thing. As Clint mentioned, he's never had a recovery from someone that was wearing a life jacket. Okay? Different types of life jackets, the offshore ones. If you do not expect to be rescued quickly if you're in the water, the type 2, this is what you generally have here for inshore. If you expect to be rescued fairly soon when you're in the water, mostly both of those will keep your head up so you can breathe if you're unconscious. Flotation type 3, wearables, throwables, and then some special use devices. So, I have to set this down. Abby, would you help me? Thank you. So this is an inflatable. On my boat, if we're out at night and somebody's fishing, they're wearing one. Especially if you fall in, you can inflate it by pulling the thing. And you can see this little light that costs about $10 at Walmart or Amazon or wherever. And believe me, this is a lot easier to find at night than your head bobbing in the water. The other thing, this carries a long distance right here. So these are really well worth having on. Some other things to look at for preparation and prevention. A flare, that's a flare, but it's battery powered, lasts for 48 hours. Personal locator beacon, okay? You deploy this, I won't do it because Abby would get mad at me here. So this sends your location, it's got a GPS receiver in it, sends your location to a satellite. Satellite tells your location to them, and somebody's going to come looking for you. An alternative method on most of the modern VHF radios, you have this little MMSI thing. This has a GPS receiver in it too. It's a VHF radio. Pull that down, press this emergency button for 5 seconds, and if you're within range, which of this radio is not very far, 4 miles maybe, something like that, then that sends your location and the registration of it, again through VHF, to the network that goes up and down the coast for these kind of things, and then somebody's going to come looking for you. They're going to try to call you on the radio first. Those little things we kind of go over. These other boating classes go over these too, to some degree.
Glenn, can you use the microphone, please?
Oh, sure, I'm sorry. Yeah, the other thing is a basic navigation. Who knows about the red right returning rule? Okay, yeah, everybody's heard of that, right? You're coming back from the sea, you pass the red buoys on your right. In the intercoastal waterway, it's a little bit different in that returning means you're returning clockwise around the United States, as shown here in the bottom. So you're kind of returning to Texas, if you like Texas. And then the intercoastal waterway markers also have either a yellow square or a yellow diamond on them. So when you're in the intercoastal waterway, the red markers ought to always be on the landward side, except, next slide please. In some cases where there's a junction on a channel, and the one to note here in the area is in the entrance to Pensacola Pass. We go over some of these things in the classes too. Go on to the next one. So that was Sherman Inlet. So off of chart 11, 384, green 15, number 15, flashing green, 2.5 seconds there, is also a channel marker for coming into Pensacola Pass, but it also signifies a intercoastal waterway marker. And it's hard to see here, but that actually has a yellow triangle on it. So that's looking into Sherman Inlet, and you can see the yellow triangle. That's about the only one I know of here. I think there's one in Perdido Pass as well. But those kind of things are just little tidbits I wanted to go through. And now you get to ask these people questions. And we appreciate everybody, by the way. I'm going to take the latitude from the Marine Advisory Committee to tell you guys thank you for showing up. I really appreciate this.
Yes,
And you drove a long way. We really appreciate that.
Do you want me to represent the service department for BGS?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if you want to go ahead and recognize Mr. Roberts there. He's also in the marine industry as an equipment dealer and repair.
Yes, please, Rob.
Service
Scott.
retailer. Introduce me. Hi, I'm Scott Roberts, and I work for BGS Marine Sales. I handle our boat sales, but also we handle service. We make 90% of our money comes from servicing boats. So, but in the safety, and under the topic of safety, we feel that you should have your boat running properly and do the maintenance. Fix the whatever is going wrong. Don't wait till it breaks, but we want you to be ready to go at all times. So the best way to prevent all of this breakdowns, all of a sudden a breakdown turns into you're in turbulent water, and you got to call everybody out to come pluck us out of the water. But the best way to prevent that is to keep your machine in perfect running condition. So that's why I'm here. Let's talk about that. Thank you.
Are we moving along to the panelists?
Yes, if you want to recognize your Marine Advisory Committee members for any topics that they may want to bring to discussion, and then you can move to the audience for public comment as well. And questions, of course, to our expert panel.
Okay, great. Any other committee members want to chime in on the boater safety issue? No?
Mr. Chairman, I'll say something real quick. First of all, I do want to say thank you to the Coast Guard. You guys are always out front on any boating-related incidents that occur on our waterways. Nobody's better at it than you, and we're proud to support you. And we've learned a lot from you on how that we can be proactive in boater safety. I've always liked these. You have these. We use them. We use some of these that we get from you. And we even created some of our own vessel identification tags off of some of the equipment that y'all provide out as well. You've called us numerous times where a kayak, a paddleboard, some type of non-registered vessel was found floating in the waterways. We don't have a choice. I mean, the duty to act requires us to start searching whether we know or not. So we try to get more people to mark their non-registered vessels, so we would have someone to call in the event that one of them is located. Hey, do you know your paddleboard's out here in the middle of the bay? Oh yeah, it must have got away. Yeah, we made up some of our own. We used yours for many years, and then we just started making some of our own as well. So the proactive stuff you do is fantastic, and proud to be part of it. So but thank you very much for what you do. Nobody's better at boating safety than the Coast Guard, so thank you.
Yeah, the placards are a great idea. Everybody should mark their paddle craft with those placards. And I don't know if anybody's mentioned it. This came up too in the Diver Safety Symposium. Just standard first aid procedures while you're out there on the boat. It's easy enough to slip and fall and have a very serious cut and bleed out in just a matter of minutes. You can be 20 miles offshore, and it's going to take a long time to get it home. 20 miles here, you're going to drive by at least 10 Walgreens. You can buy bandages and tourniquets, but you should have a very functional first aid kit and know how to use it anytime you're out on the boat. Any other committee members? I'd like to open it up to the audience for questions to our panel, please. Anybody? Yes, ma'am. Come on up, please. Tell us your name and address, and I'm sure we can answer the questions with the panel we have.
Hi, my name is Lynn Riffle. I live on East Bay at the far end down by 87. the dock is about ready to go in. I don't know, do I need to carry my license with me when I'm out putting around on the bay?
Boater license, you mean?
Yeah, my
yeah.
driver's license,
Driver's license.
yes.
I think that would be.
Because you said there was
for-
an anchor on a license.
Yes, that is if you have completed the boater safety course, you can get an endorsement on your Florida driver's license that has a little anchor. It signifies that you've completed the boater safety course. But I really don't know if we are required to have our driver's license on us with our, that would be a Coast Guard or FWC question, right?
Yeah, I would think our FWC representative on our expert panel might be able to tell you about Florida law.
As for Florida law, it always helps, but we don't require it. Fishing is a different aspect, but just for voting wise, if you're older, if you're born before January 1st of '88, you have to have your voting safety card with you. But your driver's license is just to verify who you are at that point.
Okay.
If you're born after January 1st of '88, we don't require you to have the card or anything like that, so your driver's license.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your question.
And that brings up our interns. We actually have interns that started today and for Marine Resources Division. These are 11 kids from the local colleges and other universities from around the United States. And tomorrow they will begin their boating safety courses that they can get free online. And they're FWC approved for Florida statutes or per Florida statutes. And it allows them to be better boaters and safer boaters on our local waterways. So a big plug for that.
Does that course cover you at Alabama?
Alabama has their own specific requirements, but if you're operating very similar, I think, to fishing, does Florida consider the Alabamas a reciprocity for those boating safety courses?
It depends on the course. I mean, you just look for a nationally accredited course. So we can look up anything through that's taken through like an FWC course in person. But if you take a course through Coast Guard or you go online to boatus.org, we can't find that. So it goes back to you have to have the card with you.
Good to know. Yes, sir, Mr. Roberts.
I got my boating safety card by opening up the, I believe it was the Fishing Regulations magazine, and the middle section of it had the, number 2 pencil fill in the dots. And I mailed it off and they mailed me the card. But at the time, the option was to do it online for $10 or for free by filling out the dots. And I didn't need it, I just got it, I just wanted to have one. But how about that? Have you seen that publication lately? Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
The Florida Fish and Wildlife's publication for the fishing regulations?
Yes.
Yes.
And it has the middle section of it is your boating license course, free.
Yeah. Were you able to get that from Captain Clark?
There's a box of stuff back there you need to
Okay, FWC did bring us a bunch of those publications for tonight, so thank you for bringing those.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a few years. I didn't know if it was still in the middle of the book, but if it is, that's a helpful one. All right.
So I don't know if they're good for Alabama though. I mean, because we're so close to Alabama, I went ahead and started mine. I'm doing the Alabama one. Yeah, Mr. Conrad, you probably.
Well, Kerry, when we teach the classes over in Orange Beach, the NASBA classes, we will bring in the Alabama supplement questions, okay? And here we'll bring in the Florida supplement questions. Sometimes we'll do both, depending on who's taking the class. The Alabama, at least the Orange Beach Marine Police, certainly do recognize your anchor on your license from Florida. So most states will recognize the NASBA class designation as being satisfactory for what they need in their states. As far as I'm aware, I know Alabama does, and I believe Florida will recognize the Alabama. Except the Alabama license, when you put the designation on your driver's license there, you get a V for vessel operator, whereas in Florida you get a little anchor. For what that's
Okay.
worth, I'm not sure if that's how that,
I feel that, Alabama just passed a law last year that I don't think they had a requirement
that's right.
at
They do.
all until last year, and then I feel like Florida with all these credit card captains will soon be probably implementing something similar, and there'll be a bunch of us in school again.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I just want to bring up something. Just because you were born before '88 doesn't make you a responsible boat captain. Things have changed a lot in the past 10, 15 years. And recently, we've had these accidents happen. The ferry boat being ran over by the boat with 3 or 4 engines on it. I'm sure he had his bow stuck up in the air, slowing down to make the turn, going underneath the bridge. He can't see you. And people need to be more aware of now with all the boats we have out there. There's more boats out there. Than ever. Yeah. I mean, I don't know where they get the fuel money. I know it's $100 just to go out. But you have to be aware that what's behind you as well as what's in front of you. Before you pull back on your throttle, you need to turn around, look around you, look behind you, and make sure somebody isn't running up on you. I mean, I'm almost amazed that Florida hasn't come up with a law regarding the power on a boat. I mean, I'm a retired merchant marine officer, and my license goes up to 6,000 ton, and above that, I'm not legally qualified to run an unlimited tonnage vessel. And I think Florida's going to have to look at that because there's becoming more and more accidents because of that. This land cut out here at Sherman Cove and Sand Island there, that's one of the most dangerous places that you can go through, especially after an event. After Blue Angel, I have noticed though that Marine Patrol has been out there during those events, big events, and stationing a vessel at each end to slow these guys down going through there. I've also seen people going across that cut in kayaks, and you certainly can't see a kayak if you're hooked up or if your bow's up. If you slow down enough to, you're supposed to slow down enough to maintain steerage, and safe steerage on a boat like that might not be enough to get the bow down, and we need to stress that somehow, or we're going to have more and more of these accidents occurring. It's plus people fish off the beaches there, and these guys go through there hooked up and throw in a wave that'll wash a child off the beach into the water and into a strong current. I know everybody hates restricted speed and stuff, but we need to look at that closer nowadays. Things have changed. And that's all I got to say about that.
That is a dangerous stretch of water right there. It's happened before. People have been washed off that beach. Yes, something for us, Mr. Turbin?
Mr. Chairman, I actually have 2 questions real quick,
Yes,
if you'll
sir.
let me. So this is for the Coast Guard. On the personal locator beatings, I have a Nautilus Lifeline EPIRB I use when I'm diving. If I were to hit that button to initiate it, how long does it actually take for that process to get to someone? Well, I mean, what are we talking? 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour?
Instantaneous?
Is it?
Yeah, I can speak to that. If you have your EPIRB properly set up, that's going to be something it'll go, we'll get pretty much an immediate notification. But the issue we see is if it's not properly registered, we're not going to be able to find you. We're not going to see the correct information. And that's the same thing with DSCs. Most boats on their VHF radio have that little red emergency button that's usually covered with a little plastic thing. And I recently started breaking in the command center, so I've got to see this firsthand. We'll get the DSC alert, and if people haven't properly registered it, which You can do that through U.S. Power Squadron. You can honestly just Google it. Like, it's a pretty easy process. But if you don't have the proper MMSI, you don't register for MMSI, you don't put your information in it, the Coast Guard gets very little information, and then we can't help. Like, we try our best, and we do a lot of investigative work. And a lot of times, people accidentally do it, and you know, you're never gonna get in trouble if it's an accident, but you gotta let the Coast Guard know. You know, we accidentally hit that button, please, like, call us, you know?
Thank you. Second question is a legal question. I think I just heard DeSantis saying that he's no longer gonna allow automatic stops. Is that something that state water, I mean, obviously I think state water's only, but you had to have a better purpose to pull someone over now, except than a safety inspection? Does that, anything like that at all? I watched him do an announcement about the ability to stop people in the water.
It was in the works. I don't know what the outcome will be. If he decided on it, it was supposed to take effect January 1. But for us, it doesn't affect us. We never used safety inspection as a primary stop to stop the vessel. It was always a secondary process. We always had a violation, reckless boating, or wake zone violation, or something like that. We never used that as a sole purpose to stop and board a vessel.
Understood. No, I'm a fan for that stop, because you'd be amazed at the people out there who have no business being on the water without safety equipment and all that. I think that's a great reason to do an inspection. So I was disappointed to hear that, but,
I haven't heard that it's been knocked down or that he's going against it. The last I heard is that he was probably going to sign that,
wow, okay.
along with a couple other things that, for the licenses, where a DUI would affect your driver's license, sticker penalties and stuff.
Interesting. Thank you very much.
FWC might.
Yeah, there's bills going to the House and the Senate that they're proposing. Those are different bills, but they have to, one has to present it, the other one has to match it or make recommendations, and then it has to go through session. They didn't solve everything in the session this past month, so there's countless other bills and everything that go through this process, but they have another session, I think, in June, and it's here later this month or in early June, and then if it passes both, then the mayor can sign it or the governor can do what he wants to do. But it would go into effect July 1st if anything
Yes.
is done. So, as of right now, I don't know. Nothing's been done yet.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, maybe Abby can answer the question is, what are the criteria for Panpan versus Securite and Mayday? What are the criteria for using those signals through the VHF radio?
Yeah, so the biggest thing I would say there is Mayday is an international distress signal. There's 16 international distress signals. You can find those in the nav rules. If you're saying Mayday by radio, like, we're required to respond to any signs of distress, like waving arms is a distress signal. So Mayday by radio, like, you are in distress, you need help. Securite is going to be more informational, and a Panpan is going to be like an alert, like something that we're broadcasting. Yeah. But Mayday is like the big one. That's an international distress signal.
Yeah, we often hear when we're operating on a county vessel, we keep channel 16. We're watching channel 16 at all times, and we often hear those terms, and it's sometimes a question that comes up on deck is, what does that mean? And my answer is usually be quiet so I can hear and pay attention to those, because you never know when something that could be the difference in somebody making it back to shore safely. So
We have a lot of different type of broadcasts, like a Securite, like an example, like I was stationed on a cutter, we would issue Securites whenever we were gonna get underway or whenever we were gonna, pass under like a known bridge or something, whenever we didn't wanna meet someone at a certain point, just to, like, it's more awareness level. But, we put out different requests, like a marine assistance request broadcast, that would be like asking other mariners if they're willing to help on a situation. You know, we'll have safety marine information broadcasts. That's going to be more like, you know, ATON, instant navigation things, broadcast notice to mariners. Those are going to be safety related. And then urgent marine information broadcasts will be like, usually it's a distress. We'll do that in response to like getting a distress call to alert people in the water.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman? Yeah, Abby, to follow up on that a bit, from working in the control center, if you were receiving a mayday or a distress call, whether over a radio or even if someone had the number of telephone in to one of the stations, what would you be asking them? Can you walk through that kind of dialogue and what you would need, what information you would need from that person?
So we have like an initial SAR check sheet, and we will run them through that, like nature of distress, like what's going on, what's your location, how many people are on board, do you have life jackets, and you know, from there, there's a lot more, but we have check sheets, we have supplemental check sheets, and then from there we would, you know, issue the appropriate broadcast. We'll, you know, notify our station if they can respond, we'll notify other government agencies. We work with FWC a lot, but our AOR, you know, covers from Gulfport to Panama City, so we work with all those states.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, I do have another question. As I understand, the Florida statutes have changed the criteria for notifying law enforcement if you have an accident. I think the financial amount of that, did that go up? It used to be $500, and then I just heard recently that it may have increased, that you're legally required if you have a boating accident in Florida waters that you're supposed to notify FWC so that they can take the appropriate action.
I have to look up what the base just to notify us is. So, 2,000 is our main dollar amount we go by, and that's based off of damage. And that's for like, this could be a self-reported boating accident or like a long form boating accident.
Okay, so that must be the new number then, 2,000. And anytime there's an accident that requires more than just basic first aid, if there's an accident.
Yeah, there's different dollar amounts, and there's different like levels, severity of injuries and things like that. That there's actually a date criteria that you have to notify us within. It's just like a car accident, though. We try to get you notified as soon as possible. That way we can actually get there and see both vessels, and kind of assess the damage that there is. So, but yeah, less than $2,000 is mainly like, we'll just change information with the people, the owners of each boat, and let them kind of figure it out from there. They can go through each other's insurance or however they want to do it.
Thank you.
Any illegal reporting requirements with regards to physical injuries? Any legal reporting requirements with regards to physical injuries?
Yeah, if there's any kind of injuries beyond first aid, like you have to report it. If you you get a cut on the boat, it's not, you can put a Band-Aid on it, you don't have to report us for that, but if somebody ends up having to go to the hospital, whether it's
You have to go to the doctor, basically.
they hit their head or something like that, then you're required to report it.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yes, sir. Please come on up. Address the mic. You know the drill.
Ted Gurman, Seekers Marine by Chico. How long do you have to report that? Like somebody breaks their arm on their boat, but you just take them in, they go to the hospital. Theoretically, you're supposed to report that. Is that like you have like a couple days to do that, or?
As soon as you can, immediately.
Okay. Okay.
It's gotta be within, that day, within 24 hours.
Okay. And it's kind of safety related because it means people aren't jumping on all the derelict boats, but how many derelict boats have you guys gotten rid of in Escambia County this year so far? Okay, that many. Awesome. Good job. Thank you. All the rest of you guys are doing great too.
Right on.
Yeah, just, I'd like to throw in there too, people should be aware that they're responsible for their wake. Any damage that your wake causes, you're also responsible for that, any damage. So, and we see a lot of that with these big boats now.
Any other questions? Mr. Turbin?
Yes, I would like to just mention that we are recording this tonight so that people can watch this online. It'll be available on the Escambia County's YouTube channel. So if you know anyone that missed tonight's meeting that would like to see this and learn all the great stuff that we've been able to learn from our expert panel on the Marine Advisory Committee, as well as the visitors, and thanks to all the agencies here, to FWC, the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and the Sheriff's Marine Unit for coming out. And Glenn, I mean Clint, as always, you're representing the ESAR, and Glenn, you're always here representing the auxiliary, and Lynn in the back, the unsung hero that brought a lot of educational materials, as well as the fishing regulations and the Florida boating regulations that FWC brought for us tonight. Really appreciate you guys. If there's any other, I guess, last burning questions or comments or anything, then I'll let you continue on your agenda. If you
Sounds good, thank you. So we're gonna excuse the panel?
yes, and it was I guess if there's no other burning questions or
Anybody
comments.
else have any questions? No? Nobody, guys? Thank you, guys. Outstanding. Appreciate you here.
Thank you.
And if our panel, if you do come across anything that you want to send to me by email that can help us as we promote boating safety year-round through the Marine Advisory Committee or through Marine Resources Division, we really appreciate it. And to answer the question about derelict vessels, we removed 14 last fiscal year. We have 3 that are going out for removal price quote requests right now. So we appreciate FWC and the Sheriff's Marine Unit and the Coast Guard. When we do have those major events and we have lots of derelict vessels, you guys come to the table.